L'incontro di questa sera fa parte della nostra linea di programmazione studio, che è una linea di programmazione che esplora le connessioni, i punti di contatto possibili tra cinema e arti visive. L'incontro di stasera sarà moderato da Matteo Bordone, giornalista, esperto di cultura digitale, e Katya Inozemtseva, che è la responsabile del Dipartimento Curatoriale della Fondazione Prada. L'incontro, ricordo, sarà in inglese. Un'altra piccola raccomandazione: so che molti di voi, è assolutamente comprensibile, sono qui anche nella speranza di ottenere un autografo da Nicolas o da Hideo Kojima, e vi chiediamo di non salirli perché la serata resti un momento piacevole per tutti. Grazie mille. E un'altra informazione di servizio: quanti di voi hanno il biglietto per la proiezione di 2001? Se potete alzare la mano. Non siete moltissimi, comunque bisognerà svuotare la sala e ritornare poi per la proiezione di 2001. E a questo punto direi che, insomma, possiamo dire che siamo molto felici e onorati di accogliere due creatori straordinari questa sera, due autori che con il loro lavoro, e ciascuno nel suo ambito, hanno ampliato le narrative del tempo presente. Nicolas Winding Refn, un regista visionario, dallo stile visivo audace, radicale, molto identificabile, che ha segnato in profondità il cinema contemporaneo, mescolando eleganza formale, intensità emotiva e spirito irriverente e iconoclasta. E Hideo Kojima, che è una leggenda vivente del gaming, che ha trasformato profondamente i videogiochi, li ha fatti evolvere in una forma d'arte complessa, sofisticata, capace di coniugare cinema, musica, filosofia e interattività per scoprire nuovi mondi e nuove forme di narrazione sorprendenti e avventurose. Vi chiedo di accogliere calorosamente Nicolas Winding Refn e Hideo Kojima.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. We are also very happy that we see this super full hall and this interest. So we will start with the actual fact why Nicolas Winding Refn and Hideo Kojima are here together now. And this appearance is, of course, one might guess, is far from coincidental. Friendship, I would say, feels like too imprecise here, since what binds you is an intensive exchange, creative and personal, yet one that excludes the usual linguistic component. So Hideo doesn't speak English, Nicolas doesn't speak Japanese. And this absence of direct verbal interaction has opened a space for a very different intensity of intellectual and emotional connection. In practice, each of you, as I guess, is engaged in a kind of monologue in the presence of an empathetic listener. This dynamic became the driving force behind the project Satellites that we did for Prada Aoyama. And I was wondering, how did this particular mode of communication evolve, this special kind of connection, and what has it revealed in each of you creatively, like in creative terms? Would you go first, Nicolas?
Well, because we can't really talk, we've never argued. So it's a really good marriage and it's maybe a very strange relationship to have to communicate through other ways, like visuals and music, because it's all about emotions. And the emotions then create a narrative when we speak. And then when we do meet up somewhere and are together, there's always somebody else with us translating between us. So the idea for satellites was this idea that we were like two individual, almost isolated space machines traveling the universe. And creativity is like a world of solitude, because creativity is a very, it's a singular existence that's all about expressing something within you you don't always understand. And it's hard to communicate really, because no one will maybe never understand. But if you can connect with someone who is very similar to yourself, but we can never talk, we can have an intimate relationship where we never have to rely on words. So in a way we understand each other much more and can relate to each other much stronger. And because we both grew up on television, and television defined us and inspired us, his craft is very different than mine, and vice versa. We still have certain connecting spots in our journeys. And so this fetishization of the screen, communicating together in isolation, became the foundation for the project that we did with Prada in Tokyo. And it was really cool.
ニコラスは僕らの関係を、サイレンスな関係と呼んでます。
Nicholas always says our relationship is a silent relationship.
全然喋らないわけじゃないんですけど、言語じゃないんですね。彼との会話とかコミュニケーションとか、特にスマホは毎日何十件と彼から映像が送られてくるんですけども、それに対して僕も映像とか音楽とかムービーを介してある種の会話を成立させています。
So we don't talk, but it's more than just linguistic. It's more like we have smartphones and we exchange like pictures or videos almost every day, a couple of times, and that's how we communicate.
大体自慢が多いんですけどね、こんな CD、レアな CD 買ったとか、LP 見つけたとか、ニコラスが送ってくると、僕それ持ってるよっていうので、同じ CD とか LP の写真を送ったりするんですね。
Well, we just brag each other. So he sends me pictures of latest CDs or rare vinyls, and I go like, I return the picture saying, "Yeah, I already have it."
昨日も一緒にレコードショップ行きましたけど。
And we went to a record shop yesterday.
ニコラスもちょっと言ってましたけど、ものづくりって非常に孤独な作業で、家族とか、親しい友人にもやっぱ言えないんですね。同じ立場じゃないので。そこでやっぱり自分の苦しみを理解している人ってやっぱり同じクリエイターしかいないと思うんですね。
So as Nicholas said, creating is like very solitude. You can't even explain to your family or your close friends because they won't understand how we feel.
で、先ほどのニコラスの、言ったことをちょっと借りますけど、それぞれ宇宙の中を孤独に漂ってたんですね。
So to borrow Nicholas's word, we were kind of both wandering separately in space.
で、ニコラス来て、
And Nicholas comes
お互い
closer.
引力があるから近づいていくんですけど、
And we have gravity
この
towards
まま
each
行く
other.
とクラッシュします。
But we're about to crash
なんで
if
すけど、
we...
ちょうどいい距離感で引力で引きつけながらぐるぐる回ると。
But we stay in a certain distance and circulate around each other without
で
crashing.
つかず離れずというか、この関係値でぐるぐる新たな宇宙に行くっていう 感じなんですね。
So the relationship of satellites is exactly this. We're close together. We're like satellites orbiting each other, and we're going outer space.
でこの僕らの関係っていうのが、まあ、サテライトというタイトルになって、まあ、展示物もそういう、まあ、2人が喋ってるんですけど、片方は日本語で片方は英語で喋ってると、その距離感を皆さんに見てもらうという狙いでしたね。
So this title of the exhibition, or the installation was because of that. We call it satellite. And if you have seen the exhibition, you will understand that I talk only in Japanese and Nicholas talks in English. And that's kind of our goal and aim of that installation.
I'd like to ask the two of you about your craft, your language, your art form. So video games and movies. You're both collectors of movies, and you show it off on, especially Kojima-san, show it off on social networks. The amount of stuff you accumulate, and that gets you pretty close maybe. But I'd like to know when the two of you got to know the other's art form. So if you, starting from Nicolas, if you were into video games before meeting Hideo Kojima, and what happened when you realized what games he was making, and then I'd ask Hideo about Nicolas's movies.
Well, I don't have a lot of knowledge about gaming and gaming technology. But I got this email many years ago from Hideo asking if I would love to meet him. And I called my nephew, who is a video game writer, and I said, I am going to London, I think, to meet Hideo Kojima. Do you know him? And my cousin had a heart attack. And then I was like, great. So it was like we were going to go on a blind date, because it was a bit like an open invitation. So I got on the plane from Copenhagen, and I went to London, and then we met at a restaurant, and I think it was Italian actually. And we were a lot younger. This is many years ago. And something clicked between us, It just became like, where have you been all my life? And so, how do we begin this relationship without talking? And then obviously through Hideo, I got introduced to gaming. But what better way to learn about gaming than through Hideo? And obviously I saw the fascination and the technology that was emerging and really at the cusp of beginning to change many things in all our medium spectrums that we all work in. And from then on, I became obviously a big admirer and began to be very interested in gaming narratives and games in general. And I was lucky enough to travel around with Hideo to places that were game-oriented and in being able to be his eyes and ears and investigating something that my mind can't even really comprehend, that how amazing these technical codes can create. And it's super fascinating. It's what I say to him, your canvas continues to expand because technology expands. I'm still making the same movie. So there is an interesting relationship in that we're kind of circling each other's avenues, but we're in completely different settings. And that ever since has been a very interesting journey of me learning about gaming.
まあ僕 まあニクラスのことを知らなかった最初ね。
At first, I didn't know
で
Nicholas.、
アメリカの友達がメールを送ってきましたある日。
One day, an American friend sent me an email.
昨日とんでもない映画を見たと。
He said,
ワルハラライジングって言うて。
I saw this super
すごい
movie
と。
called
こんなもん見たことない。
Valhalla Rising. I never
で
seen a movie like
見ろって
this.
言うんですけど、
And he said, watch it.
日本でやってないし。
But it's not in
で
Japan.
アメリカでブルーレイで出たんで。
But there was a
で
Blu-ray
それ買い
already
ま
out
して。
in US.
そ
So
れ
I
を見
got
ま
it.
した。
And I
ほとんど
watched
セリフないんで。
There's hardly no dialogue.
で、ちょっとびっくりして本当に。
But it
こ
blew
ん
me
な
away.
こんな映画を見たことないというか、
I
まあ
never seen a
マ
movie
ッド
like
マッ
it.
クス2とかブレードランナー見た時の衝撃み
It
たい
was
な
the same feeling I got with Mad Max 2 or Blade Runner.
この人に会いたいなと思って。
And I thought I want to meet
そ
this
した
guy.
ら、もうちょっとしてからかな、日本でドライブ
But then
公開されて、
after a while, Drive was
ドラ
shown
イ
in
ブも素晴ら
Japan.
しかったし、
And I liked
で
Drive、
まあ、
too.
彼に会いたいということで、
And I wanted to meet the director.
メールを送ったんですけど、
So I got information and sent
で、
him
ま
an
あ、
email.
彼はデンマークなんで、
But he's in
でたまた
Denmark.
ま僕、ヨーロッパにいたんで、ロンドンで会いましょうと。
But I was in Europe at that time, so I said, oh, let's meet up in
で
London.
こういうことよくハリウッドの人約束するんですけど、来ない人多いです。
I usually do the same promise with these Hollywood people, but they don't usually show up.
でもニコラスちゃんと来て、
But Nicholas came,
まあ、そこで、彼も言ってましたけど、
and he said the
初
same
めて
thing.
会ったんですけど、もう15分ぐらいで幼馴染というか、前から知ってるような、そんな感じでしたね。
Well, we just met for 15 minutes, and I felt like we were like old mates from the past.
で、それからまあ、付き合い始まったんで、まあお互いの現場行った、僕もニクラスの撮影現場何回か行きましたし、エキストラも出させていただきましたし、で、まあ大体、ものづくりの話とか家族の話とか、未来の話をするんですけど、なんでしょうね、孤独な、僕が孤独なニコラスと会って2人になったというよりも、なんかもともと一つだったみたいな感じなので、まあそんなに頻繁には会ってませんけど、それでもなんか、一つのような、双子ってさっき彼言ってましたけど、双子というよりもうちょっと近い感じですよね。一つの細胞ですけど、たまたま別々で暮らしているというか、そんな感じですね、今も。
So that's how we met, and we started to see each other. But I went to his works and how he filmed. I was also, if you know, been in his film as an extra. But we talk about creation, we talk about family, we talk about future. And as Nicholas said, we both feel solitude and lonely. And he said we're like brothers separated. But I feel much closer. We were like almost like one. Because, it's not like we're twins. It's more like we're the same cell, but live in a different location.
まあ、2020年に僕ちょっと病気をしたんですけど、かなり人生で初めてぐらいの、まあ、手術もしましたけど、その時に、まあ、ニコラス、周りの人は結構心配してくれて、メールをくれるんですけど、もうメールを返せないぐらいちょっとまあ、大変だったんですね。で、ニコラスも心配してくれたんですけど、メール返しなかったら、今度ビデオを送ってきました。5分ぐらいの長いビデオで僕に延々と問いかけるビデオを送ってくれたんで、結構時すごい救いになりましたね。
Well, in 2020, I became quite ill. This was the first time I had, a few operations as well. But, I lost contact with a lot of people. I mean, like a lot of people wrote to me saying, "Are you okay?" and things like that. But I was so bad, I couldn't reply to these emails that I got. Nicholas sent me a couple of emails. I didn't reply, and surprisingly, he started to send me like videos of 5 minutes of him talking to me. And actually, that really saved me in my lowest time.
I sometimes feel we look like each other.
いや、そんな背高くないですけど。
I'm not that tall.
Regarding your friendship and the way it came about, I'd like to ask both of you, I don't know who wants to answer, about Hartman, because it's a character that's, I don't know personally Nicolas Winding Refn, but really looks like a character that's got all the details of his movies. The fact that he's cold, but also very warm, very passionate, but also lonely and desperate. Who's responsible for that character?
Well, I'll just, this is very quick from my side. I mean, I'm just the eye candy. I mean, I get scanned and then I'm in Hideo's hands. So Hartman is fully his creation. But I will give you a little secret. I am playing Hideo Kojima. So actually, I'm playing Hideo in his game as Hartman.
ニコラスに出てほしかったんで、キャラを考えようと、当て書きに近いですね、これ。
Well, I wanted Nicholas to be in my game, so I always had him in mind when I created the character.
ニコラスに喜んでほしいんで、ちょっとぶっ飛んだキャラクターじゃないとダメだというので、心臓が止まってあの世に行って帰ってくるっていうんですけど、ニコラスは家族の話も聞いてるので、家族思いの人なんで、あの世で別れた家族を探しに行くっていうハートマンが、彼といろんな話をしながら思いついたキャラですね。
So, Nicholas, in order to please Nicholas and what kind of character, I had to make this character super crazy. That's why, Hartman he dies, every, whatever minute, 21 minutes, and only survives, 3 minutes and things like that. I was listening to his story when we met, and I realized that he really cares for his family. So in the role of Hartman as well, he's trying to find his family or trying to find his beach where his family is.
ニコラスの映画の、プッシャーとか、ドライブを見てると、たった孤独なキャラクターが出てきて、家族なんかおらんわと言ってる感じですけど、全然そんなことはないです彼は。結構家族の話をされますし。
Well, looking at Pusher or Drive, it feels like it's so solitude. The main character is like me and tough and no family. But no, the actual Nicholas is he cares so much about family. He's a real family man. So it's totally different than the character he has in his movies.
で、ちょっとここから怖い話なんですけど、僕のゲームがいつも未来予言と言われてるんですね。MGS2 の話とか MGS4 の話とか。
So a lot of people say that, I'm prophet like MGS2 or Metal Gear Solid 4, right? So I'm going to tell you a little scary story.
で、デスストの後にコロナが起こったんで、預言者ですかというようにそんなことはないんですけど。
So after DS1, pandemic happened. Everyone said, "Oh, you predicted." And no, of course I'm not a prophet.
一つ怖いのはですね、
But one thing
ハート
scared
マンって心臓がちょっと異常なんですね。
Hartman has his heart, disease in a way.
で、2の時に、
So for
皆さんや
DS2,
った方は分かりますけど、心臓が肥大化して結構やばい。
his heart is popping out.
そういう設定をしたんですけど、
And that was my setting for Hartman.
これは言ってもいいかもしれないけど、
DS2
どうなんですか。ちょうど2を企画している時に、ニコラスちょっと心臓の手術をされたと。
While I was making DS2, Nicholas had his heart operation,
ちょ
which
っと僕
I
的
didn't
には
know.
だいぶびっくりしまし
And I
た。
was so surprised.
You predicted the future.
No, of course not.
あと、ハートマンの部屋にいっぱいありますよね。CD とか LP とか。
And you see a lot of CDs and vinyls
あ
in
れ
Hartman's
は
room,
ニコ
right?
ラス、オマージュ。
That's very homage from Nicholas, if you look closely.
Actually, you have touched already some facts of your lives, your biographies, like talking about illness, talking about not even death, but about mortality. So at a certain point, both of you got to this very acute awareness of finitude that somehow have reshaped your perception, your operating in the world. So going back a bit to the subject of death and dying and finitude, I was wondering, Nicholas, so when we recall Drive or Valhalla Rising, for example, so the concept of dying and finitude, so how did you deal at that time with that subject, and how do you feel about that now?
Well, I mean, the essence of drama is death. It's what we all try to to avoid or we struggle against, but it's inevitable. We will die. And we had a strange kind of experience in the sense that my physical part of my body, my heart, was very affected a little bit the same time or a little bit later when Hideo had affected his eyes. So our heart and our eyes and our single cell was under enormous amount of pressure. And in my situation, I died. And I was dead for 20 minutes. But I was then awakened because it wasn't my time yet. And then suddenly I was given life again. And now that I know that you can die and you can actually come back, it gives a whole new perspective of what it means to live. And I think since then I had this instinct of wanting to only live in the future, because there's so little time left in reality. And so looking back at my films before I died and my films afterwards, death is something to fear, something to poetically battle against. But in the future, death exists as much as life, and therefore it is now a fantasy world of existence where you can only live in the future. And that, I think, is probably the most profound difference in my life, that God gave me a second chance.
And the same question probably would go to you, because like gambling around the concept of death and dying in the world of video gaming, for example, you, Hideo, you created a revolution. So you changed totally, not even the approach, not even the canon, but you introduced a totally new understanding of inner dynamics.
はい、僕はこれインスタレーションでも言いましたけど、父親が早く亡くなったんで、早くに身内の死を体験したんですね。
I said this in the installation, but I lost my father when I was young, so I kind of knew death when I was young.
もっと言うと小島家、45歳以上生きた人がいなかったんで、早死にだと思ってました。
And speaking more, I think a lot of all the Kojima family and relatives, they didn't pass the age of 45. So I thought, our family had a very short lifespan.
なんで、死は必ず誰にも平等に来るというか、絶対死ぬので、そういう死生観をずっと持ってました。
However, I knew that death is equal to everyone, so I had that thinking before, of course.
なんですけど、DS2 でも死は別れじゃないっていうセリフを 4,5 回言うんですけど、死ぬことを恐れるんじゃなくて、死んだ人もこの世にとどまるというか、皆さんを見届けているというか、あるいは死んだ人が作ったものを僕らが使っているとか、この建物を多分作った人死んだかもしれませんけど、僕らその上に座っているんで、そういうつながりがあるっていうことをデスト2でも言ったんですね。
So, as I said in DS2 so many times that death cannot take us apart. I said that a couple of times in the game, but even today, I think the people who died still watches us and feels with us. Also, where we're sitting today, maybe the person who built the seats have passed away, but we're still using it, meaning even death has connection to us.
何もこの世の中生きているものだけで生きてるんじゃなくて、すでに死んだ人が作ったものとか考え出したものとか発明したものとか残したものとともに僕らは生きているので、そういう感じ方をしてほしいなというのがあります。
So we're not living in a world of just living people. we have been living in a world where a lot of people have invented stuff and we're still using it. But the person who invented or innovated has passed away. We're still living in a world with all the people who have passed away and still living, and it's a mixture of that.
これネタバレになるんですけど、DS1 で、ラストストランディングっていうのが起きるんですけど、その後ちょっといろんなセリフがあったと思うんですけど、絶滅と、死はイコールだと思うんですけどね。人類は必ずどっかで絶滅するんですよ。で、人も必ずどっかで死ぬんですけど、その、残りの時間をどう生きるかっていうのが僕らに与えられた、なんていうかな、チャンスというか幸せというか、そういう生き方を僕はしてきましたんで、僕のゲームの中でもそういうことを語ってます。
So this could be a little spoiler of the game, but if you play DS1, the Last Stranding happens, and people, it's inevitable that people extinct, or people die. This is inevitable, but with the amount of time, short or long, it's a question of how we live the amount of time that we have. And I've been always thinking about that, and it's a chance that we have the chance to live. And I've been trying to be living happy as much as possible because I know it's a limited time.
Regarding death again, but you're the one who made 2 very successful, huge games with death in the title, so you will excuse me. The 2 of you are very close also regarding death in your language, in your crafts, in your style, but they're very different. They're not silly deaths, but in Nicolas's movies, death is very graphic and it's also crucial. It's also really meaningful. Whereas in Hideo's games, death sets these games apart from the rest of the video game world, because it's games with people with guns and weapons, but the less you kill, the better it is. Would you like to comment about that? Because it's important for the both of you, but in 2 very different ways. Maybe Nicolas first.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, when you set out to create fantasy, the essence is obviously to inspire reactions and thoughts and emotions, and anything that turns to the matter of mortality always becomes heightened, because it is the fear of the unknown. It's something we can't control. So I just use it as a good mechanism in terms of what I fetishize, and this long battle that we have towards trying to stay alive as long as we can. But I also feel that at the end of the day, that maybe because of my experience, I don't longer fear it as much, because I know that it's not really the end, it's maybe just something to transport. But then I am not there yet. So I think that it's a hard question to answer, because in a way, it's also very isolated in the moment of your time. Because what does it mean to die in reality compared to what does it mean to die in fantasy? Time is essence, and take care of your time or we will.
僕の場合ゲームなので非常に難しいんですね。
For me, it's games, so it's really a difficult topic.
それはですね、プレイヤーゲームオーバーでコンティニューができるゲームなんです。死なないんですね。
Because in games you have continue even if it's game over.
で、コンティニューできないゲームを考えましたけど、売れないと言われてやめましたんで。
I thought of a game that you cannot continue, but the publisher says this will never sell, so I scrapped that idea. But I had that idea before.
そういうゲームオーバーで時間が戻って命が戻るわけなんですけど、そのシステムで命の尊さとか死の意味っていうのはどうやって伝えるかってずっと考えてたんですよ。
So you have this reset or game over or start over again. is the game. And I was always thinking, how should I express the importance of life or the lifespan or things like that in a game?
で、デス・ストランディングでは、プレイヤーサムって、機関車っていう、死なない、意図的にそういう役割をしたんですね。ゲームオーバーでコンティニューできるっていうことなんで、そういう特殊能力をサムに背負わせながらも、それ以外のドラマで死を描くっていうのが、デス・ストのテーマでした。
So one of the theme I thought I put in Death Stranding, people who played would obviously know, the main character, Sam, is a repatriate, meaning he can't die. He comes back to the living of life. So I deliberately put that in my game, but how, with his special ability, it was more about drawing the characters around Sam to express life and death.
で、もう一つストーリー的に、これいろんなところで言ってますけど、ゲームなんで、主人公が死なない、なんでしょうね、主人公が死ぬとされてて難病にかかってる人も、映画で言うと死ぬじゃないですか。ゲームはそれを回避できるかもしれないですよね。ゲームのシステムによって。
So story-wise, it's a game. So even though it's a main character, unlike a movie, the main character sometimes is destined to die, and that's the plot of the whole story. Even if I make that in the game, there could be ways to avoid it because the game is interactive and controlled by the player.
いわゆるマルチエンディングってやつで、ただ僕それ大嫌いなんですよ。やっぱり、ゲームはインタラクティブで、スタートからエンディングまでは結構自由度があって幅広く行動できるにしても、最終的には運命みたいなものを抗えないので、最初から決まっている主人公は死ぬようにしてます。
So that's why I hate these multi-ending games, and I never do it because, from start to finish, I think there is a story in my game and also a destined. Like, for instance, if a character is going to die, he or she will die in the end, no matter what.
映画で言うと13日の金曜日みたいなホラーありますよね。
So in movies like Friday the 13th or
で、
horror
5、6
movie,
人の男女がどんどん殺されていって、
and you have like 5, 6 people constantly
最後
starting
ファ
to
イナル
die,
ガールが
and
生
there's
き残
this
って
final
倒
girl
して生還するっていう、
in the end
これ
defeating the enemy.
これ映画なんですけど、
And that's a movie,
例
typical
え
horror.
ばこれをゲーム化するとどうなるかというと、
So how about if I make this into a game?
誰も死なないエンディングもあると。
There could be an ending where
こ
no
れで
one
果たして
dies.
13日の金曜日なのかとい
And
う、
I'm like, is this Friday the 13th?
そういう違いがありま
So
す。
that's the
映画とゲー
difference
ムは。
between movies and games.
だからこそ、ゲームの中で、一人一人の生と死をちゃんと描きたいなとは思ってます。
And that's why I wanted to write each individual character, their life, their death, if it needs to be, individually.
And now, while talking about finality, mortality, awareness, we kind of still speaking about time. We are talking about different life forms of this time. How we learn to appreciate time that we have. And in this regard, for example, Nicolas, in your films, the time is never a chronology. It's never an unfolding row of events. Time in your films, like, correct me if I'm wrong, has a very physical density. So it's a material or materia, if we want. It's very present. It exists according to the not chronological laws, but very material, physical laws. So could you please comment a bit on that perception of time that I would say rather merciless towards any conventional audience expectations?
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, time is everything. You know, the minute you exchange, you have to get in return. And obviously, we spend time waking up, we spend time with our loved ones, we spend time eating, we spend time doing the essence of being alive. And then comes the entertainment of time, meaning that how do we use our time out of our necessities? Because those are the moments that maybe where we value time in a different way, because it's not essential physically, but it's an emotional essential. It's a spiritual essential. And I think that where art has its true meaning is the exchange of time that it takes for the experience. So if you give time, what you get in return. And I think that where art is an essence is that it is there to inspire thought. So the time you give, you get a thought back. The more time you give, the more thought you get in return. And thoughts are actions. Thoughts are changes. Thoughts are experiences. And therefore, there's an equal exchange. It's a transactional experience. I get very frustrated when I feel, in my opinion, that so much what is now considered content is there to consume without an exchange. It's just there to steal time. But this time is so valuable because you will never get it back. And therefore I find it an obligation for any artist is always to, obviously to entertain, because that is how you exchange time, but you have to inspire, you have to plant seeds, you have to challenge, you have to do all those things, because otherwise it's not an exchange, you're just stealing time. And that is something you always have to remember. Is it worth your time? Because you'll never get that back. And nowadays, when there's so much options of giving time, you can be more selective. And that's why all industries, whether it's movies or TV or gaming or literature or art exhibitions or arts or whatever you want to call it, are being challenged because there's a much more awareness of, well, what time, what is my return? And then we have this terrible nuisance of the phone that keeps on stealing your time at the same moment, and you're struggling just to hold on to the limited time you have. And I think that's why we always have to remember every day the time you have is the time you're going to live in the future, and you want as much time to live in the future as possible.
Regarding time, I'd like to ask Hideo about time, which becomes liquid. It becomes like rain in Death Stranding. So it is something the characters can try to avoid, but sometimes they can't avoid being in a storm full of time, so to speak. So I'd like to know how that connects to your life and the themes you like to put in your games.
もう時間だけが平等だと思うんですね。あらゆる人種、国の人々とか性別とかジェンダーとか。
So time is the only thing that's equal all around the world, whether which culture, which nationality, or which gender, or anything.
お金持ちでもお金ない人でも
If you're like super rich,
1日24時間、まあ、
super poor, it doesn't matter.
正確に言うと23時間なんぼなんですよ。地球の時点でね。
You have like 23 hours to be precise, 20
まあ
hours,
重要な
3
の
hours,
は
59, whatever.
この平等な時間をどう使うかというのがまず一つと、
First thing,
まあこれ先ほどニコラ
what
スが
would
言
you
ってた。
use in that limited time is one thing.
で
As
もう一個
Nicolas
は
said,
まあ時間感覚というのはやっぱり人によって違うので、人によって違うというかその、行いによって違うですかね。
second thing is about the time. The people differs to how much time they feel.
熱中している時の1時間と退屈している1時間は全く時間感覚が違うんですね。
Like if you're into something, 1 hour goes away like that. But if you're bored, 1 hour is so long.
なん
You
で
feel differently.
そこなんですよ。時間の24時間しかないのをどう使うかというのと、時間感覚をどう感じるかというか、それで人生は大きく変わると思うんですよね。
So your life changes in these two aspects: how much time you really have, 24 hours a day, and also how you feel about the time is really important.
もっと言うと、自分の時間感覚と他人の時間感覚はまた違うんですよ。お父さん、お母さん、子供たちの。
So if you step a little further, your feeling of time differs to maybe other people, even if it's your mother or your
まあ同
family.
じ1時間でも違うので、
The same 1 hour
そ
feels
この
different.
共有をできるかどうかで人間関係変わってくるんですけど、
And how can you kind of share that with other people? Depends, totally on your relationship with the people.
で DS1 のまあこれネタバレです、まだネタバレですけど、クリフが過去の時間を、サムと共有するっていうのはそういう意図があります。
So in DS1, another spoiler, sorry, but if Cliff shares the same moment with Sam, that the reason I just said is there because of it.
でもう一つは地球の時点じゃなくて細胞分裂のいわゆる寿命ですよね。細胞がこう、テロメアの遺伝子があって何回分裂すると死んでしまうっていう、設計図が僕らの中に入ってるんで、残りの時間残りの寿命でどう時間を使うかと、あるいはその家族たちと友達たちとどう時間を共有するかっていうのが結構最後の僕らはそう感じるんですけど、人生を豊かにするかどうかっていうので変わってくると思いますよね。
And the second, going away from the logistic time, like how Earth spins and you have 24 hours, also your time as a human being, because the telomere of difference of how many cell separations, we know by fact of science that our life is limited because of the cell than things, meaning we have a limited amount of time of our lives, how we spend, how we share with our family, how we spend with our friends. And we have to try to be happy as possible or make it the moment worth it.
Actually here I wanted, initially, according to the plan, I was about to ask you about communal efforts. So both for the film and for the video games, they emerge from collective efforts and the management of diverse teams, but not even that, but also in terms of co-creation as a principle where each agent may become a participant. But yet, as our conversation unfolded, actually I want to invert this question and ask quite the opposite thing. What is the role of individual creator within these profoundly collectivized labor, both films and video games? How has your sense of yourself and your functioning evolved during time, over time? And at the very end, so at the end of the day, what does your independence cost you?
Independency is the privilege of doing what you want to do, when you want to do it. And you don't fucking care what anyone says. That's what it means to be independent. And in a way, isn't that the essence of creativity? To do what you want to do, when you want to do it, and not fucking care what anyone says about it? That's, that's cool. And I think that, I chose a profession because I didn't have any talent. I couldn't write, I'm dyslexic, I'm colorblind, I can't dance, I can't play an instrument. I only have one girlfriend, after I got famous. And, well, goes with the territory. She's really hot. I saw that my talent was that I was an exhibitionist, but I didn't know how, until I realized that I could choose a medium that was the screen to express my emotions, but in order to do that I needed experts of different art forms. I needed a team. And obviously that is the struggle of anyone who's a film director, and I know there are some of them here, which is you're only as good sometimes as the team you built. But then your job as a director, which is both militant and intimacy, is to, in my opinion, is to inspire everyone else to do their best. That is the easiest and most functional way. Steal a lot of ideas, claim they're your own, make sure everyone eats well. But it's a very essential thing about this idea that most people look towards movements. And if somebody can take charge of the movements, most people will follow. But they need to follow with a vision that is singular. So you have to expose yourself in many different ways to achieve that. And that is directing. You are seeing something in your mind that you need to get across. And whatever you need to get across there is only assets to support. But you always have to be in the mindset that you're independent. At the end of the day, you have to get there on your terms. Because if you don't, you're not being true to who you are. And if you're not being true to who you are, then the time you're struggling, trying to find a compromise for other suggestions that are not true to you, becomes the time you lose. And there's nothing greater than walking across an arena to the other side and being able to say, I did it my way. Because that's the only thing that can never be taken away from you. You can never be criticized for being true. You can never be criticized from creating from your heart. You can never be criticized for being you, the individual as you are, and be proud of that. Stand tall. You're beyond criticism. You're beyond opinions. You're just created an emotion. But you need to put the team together. You need to be nice once in a while.
僕はニコラスとちょっとちゃうんですけど、
I'm a little different than what
基本
Nicolas
的に
said.
一人で作りたいです。
I want to create everything by myself.
で、まあ AI を入れるとそれが可能かもしれませんけど、
Maybe I could do it with the help of AI.
最初ね、40年前からな、5、6人だったんですね、開発ってゲームの、まあ短期間で。
Well, 40 years ago when I started games, it was only like 5, 6 people in
で
the
企
team.
画やって絵を描いてマップ描いてデータ入力してもう全部やります。
Draw the map,
取説書いてポ
program
スター書いてとか
Make a poster, instruction manuals, everything was done by everyone.
でまあそうこうしてるうちにテクノロジーが上がっていってすごく作る量が増えまして、
Technology advanced. We had to
まあ
create even more.
30人50人100人になっ
And the
て
team went to 30,
でトリプル A
$50.
のオープンワールドの街1個作らないといけないんで
And now triple world
まあ
games,
200人と
triple
か
A games. We have
ま
to
あ
create like an
普通
open
の会社は
world.
600人ぐらいでやってますけ
200
ど
people. Normally 600 for other publishers, I don't know.
でまあしんちゃんみたいな新海洋二さんね
And people like
アートをやっ
Yoshi,
ている
who is my art director,
彼とか来
Yoshi
て、
Shinkawa,
まあ
she came.
僕が描けないようなものを描いてくれるんで
And he drew something I can't
そこ
draw.
は化学反応があっていいんですけど
So that was good. That was good that I
もう
got him
ね
in.
200人250人になるともう分からないです誰が何やってるか分からないです
But if you have more than 200, 250 people, I don't know what each individual is doing.
この間もジョージ・ミラーさん来られまして一緒に相撲行きましたけど
George Miller came the other day and we went to see sumo together.
彼に会った時に、僕は150人以上人を増やさないと言ったんですね
And I remember telling him in the past when I first met him, I said that I won't
まあそれ以上
expand more than 150.
チームとしてきついので
Because as a team, it's really difficult to manage more than 150
でジョー
people.
ジさんはそれを聞いて
And George said,
その通りだ科学的に正しい
you're
と
totally right scientifically.
放牧民が世界中の
Like the nomads,
150匹以上の牛とか羊を扱うのは無理だと
they only keep up to 150 of the
小島
animals
さんあ
that
なた
they can
正しいっ
take.
て言うん
So
ですけど
Hideo, he said, you're totally right. Your team
と
should
と
be
ころが今
150.
250人になってまして
But now my team
この
is
間ジョージさんに謝
250.
りましたけ
So
ど
when I met George the other day, I said, I'm sorry, I didn't keep my promise.
で多くのクリエイターとやるのはすごくいいんですけどもう、まあ、ハリウッドのブロックバスターもそうですけどトリプル A のゲームももう何千人っていう人がやってるんで作業員が増えてくるんですね
But you know, working as a creator is great. Hollywood movies, blockbuster movies, any AAA games similar. When you start creation, there are a lot of people who are not creators anymore. They're just doers of certain things.
でそう
Like a
なってく
factory.
るとどうなるかというと
Then what happens?
まあものを作りたい、自分のゲームを作りたくてチームに入ったのにずっとドラム缶を書いているとか。
So this one guy joined the team.
10年ぐらい。
wanted to be like a
野球
game
の
designer.
ボードのサインを15年作ってる人を僕知ってます。
But they end up just making cans all the time for years and years and years for the game. Oh, I know someone in a baseball game that just is creating scoreboards 15 years.
非常にかわいそうなんですね、それ。
And that's really sad to think of it.
で、例えばフレンチレストランに、就職して三つ星か五つ星の。
So, like example, you go into you want to be a chef.
この
You
人
go
は
into a French restaurant, like a 3-star,
将来
5-star.
店を持ちたいわけですね。
He, the one that entered,
レシピ
wants
も
to
決め
have
て
his own restaurant in the future.
メニューも作って料理もして。
Build the menu, build a nice recipe,
Yeah.
his original
最初
recipe.
皿洗いから入って
So he starts by dishwashing,
まあ味見をちょっとさせてもらったり
and then he starts to steal the taste
どんどん
of
どん
the
どん勉
chefs,
強していって経営のも勉強して
and he learns how
まあ5
restaurant
年
is
ぐらいする
run.
とのれん分け
And
で
after a while,
店を出せます。
like 5 years, he is granted like, oh, you could now
これが
open your
正しい
store.
チームだと思います。
This is the correct way of team.
なんですけどファーストフードとか入ると
But if you go into a big fast food
バン
franchise,
ズ
for
の焼き
example,
方と
You learn
まあなんかなんでしょ
how to grill the buns.
全部こう
But
設計図があって
There's already instruction manual to everything.
まあ例えばハンバーガーの店として
Like for instance, there's a burger shop, and you're in a
バ
burger
ンズだ
shop,
け焼いて5年ぐらい焼いてますと
just grilling buns
レシピ
for
も作れませんし
the 5 years, and you don't know the recipe of
で
it.
なんとハンバーグも食べたことないとハンバーガーも食べたことない
And you haven't even tasted the final outcome, the hamburger that you're making.
本来シェフになるには全工程と、レシピとそのハンバーガーを食べて喜んでる人の顔を見ないと多分シェフになれないんですよね。
In order to become a good chef, you need everything. You need to know the ingredients, how it's cooked, but also the faces of the people who have eaten your food. You need to know that.
なんで小島プロダクションでちょっと他と違うんですけど、モデルを作ってる人も最後一緒にバグチェックします。最後の最後まで。
So in Kojima Productions, even who are like, for instance, like a modeler, game modeler, at the very end, everyone will do bug checks and play the game.
普通はまあ効率化のために、例えばモデル制作終わったら別のチームに行くんですね。
Usually in a team, if they're like modelers and they finish their role, they go on to their next project to be efficient.
まあ自分のモデルがゲームの中でどう使われてるかも知らないと。
So they don't know how their model is in the game in the final stages.
でそれちょっと悲しいことなんで、
And I thought that was really sad.
なんで人と一緒にコラボレーションして、何かを作るのは非常にいいんですけど、
So collaborating with someone is really good.
クリエイターがある人数を超えると作業員に変わってしまうところがあって、
However, creators tend to change
そ
to
こは非
just
常に
workers to a
恐ろし
certain
い
level.
ところだと思い
So
ます。
you have to be careful of the numbers of the people that you work with.
Thank you, but we are running out of time. As far as this is one of the key plots of our conversations today. But before we go to some few questions from our audience, I would just really thank you both for being so open, so intimate, and so generous. So, and it's like really very precious. So thank you for tonight. So we have one question here in the second row, and we need a mic. Probably I will be quicker, Matteo, with yours.
Thank you to the both of you. Really was very profound, inspiring and fun. My question is for Mr. Refn. You mentioned that television inspired you. You grew up with TV. And my question is actually if there is still something you are keep on drawing from that realm, or something you are missing from that realm about making moving images in that way. I mean, in a more analogic world compared to what is making movies today. Thank you.
Well, I think that we are at a very interesting crossroads of films and obviously television, but especially movies, because movies were made for places like this. Television shows, streaming shows were made for the screen, the telephone, essentially. I believe that still that cinema is a profound jewel that is trying to find its place in the universe that has now moved on. And that's why after 10 years I decided last year to make a movie again for the cinema, because I was like, this is the worst time to make movies, and therefore it's the right time to make movies again. But from my upbringing, I think that when I saw the television and I could turn on the power and I could click channels, I was profoundly, it was like a religion for me. I could turn the channels and I could see different things on it. And it was the most amazing thing ever. And I came from Denmark, from Copenhagen to New York in 1978 with my mother and stepfather, where television in Denmark didn't exist. So to me, it was like, this is the greatest thing on earth, television. And my mother was very Scandinavian, so she was like, this is terrible, terrible. And I had was not allowed to watch a lot of TV, but I could even figure out when to turn on the TV when they were outside the room by turning off the sound, but just clicking the channels. And I think that had such a profound idea that I can control emotions through clicks. And that, I think, post my rebirth, I've come to that understanding that that's really what I do. I want to control emotions, yet at the same time, I know I exist in a world that dissects creativity in a new way, in an interesting way, because technology allows it to be dissected. So therefore, I can now think of a movie as a linear form, but I can also think it as pieces, intimate, dreams that now exist on a social platforms, but yet can be accumulated in an auditorium like this. And that, I think, is when cinema becomes interesting again.
Some other questions?
Thank you so much for this meeting. I love every answer. And for you two, I have different question. I go ask the individual question first. For Mr. Refn, we will ever see the Avenging Silence, maybe in the future, I don't know. I love the script, the initial idea of that movie. I heard since 2014, 2015, and I hope we will see one day in the big screen. For Mr. Kojima, regarding Death Stranding first and second, you painted a world with a fundamental theme of both in them, loss. Why did you focus so much for that so much on this topic? And also for the first draft of the second chapter, is it very different from what we play, or you reoperate a different part of what you think in the initial draft? For the question of both, it's a very unique circumstance, but...
sorry, can you
repeat?
Hideo, I didn't get the question part.
I repeat, sorry. It's a very emotional, sorry. Regarding the first and the second Death Stranding, you painted a world with a fundamental theme in both, the loss. Why did you focus so much on this topic? And the first draft of the second chapter is very different from what we play today, or not? And for the both of you, the question is maybe a little specific, but if it's possible to have a little autograph to expose in my bookshelf, I know, but you are my legend, and today is a very special day to me.
Well, I think that the autograph for sure. So why don't you just come down now and
You're a real showrunner.
oh my God, he's pregnant. He's brought the baby.
そうかそうか。質問って最後欲しかった。最後欲しかった。
I'll answer the question later. Is that okay?
We have real showrunners here.
Best of luck. We're signing the baby.
I'll answer first.
まあ意図的にやったというよりも、多分人生って失うことばっかりだと思うんですね。
It wasn't deliberate. In life, you lose a
まあ
lot
破
of
壊
things.
もそうですけど、
Destruction.
失って新しいものを見つけるっていうのがその繰り返しだと思うんですよね。
And it's a repeat of finding new things after losing something.
あるいは破
That's
壊
life.
してもう一回何かを作り直すというか。
Or you demolish something and
これは
recreate something.
人の人生も含め時代もそうなんで。
This is people's life, no matter which era.
なんでまあドラマチックな感じで、失いながらも新しいものを手に入れるっていう、
So I thought it would be dramatic.
まあそういう、まあ物語というか、
You lose
まあある種古典的なもんですよこれ。
It's very a typical old classical, method in a way in story.
で、企画時と、最終的にっていう質問ですよ
And
ね。
also you
ストーリーが
ask
変わったか
another if the story has changed from the
大
first
きなストー
draft.
リーは全然変わってません。そこテーマに沿ってるので。
The big root hasn't changed. The theme is the same.
まあただ途中で、小さなミッションのつなぎとか、
But like small missions
エ
and
ピソードとエピソー
connections.
ドのつなぎとか、まあゲームをプレイしながら調整して変えていってますんで、
Or the
そこは変わってますけ
in
ど。
betweens of chapters, I play the game and adjust. So maybe it has changed,
最
if you
初
say.
に設計したプロット通りには作ってます。
Basically, I,
まあゲーム性もそうですね。
create things from the initial plot that I
で
think at
まあ
first.
難易度とかマップとかそういうのは調整で
But
変わりますけど、
difficulties and map, of course, I change according to how I play.
そんな感じでいいですか。
Does that answer your question?
はい。サインね大丈夫ですか。
An autograph. You're happy with the autograph?
I would still advocate for question and not autograph. So one more, please.
Oh, about the Avenging Silence? Well, I mean, there's no script, so I don't know what you read, but yes, I will be making the Avenging Silence very soon.
One more.
Yeah. Hello, and thank you for being here. And I wanted to ask you both one question. Do you have any suggestion about someone young who wants to do filmmaking in 2025? Like, do you have any suggestions and something to say for someone who wants to make his life into movies? And I also wanted to thank you, Hideo Kojima, for inspiring me for studying my whole life cinema. And yeah, thank you. Sorry.
Well, I mean, I will give you the advice that Eli Kazan gave to me when I was 24, which is do it your way. Again, going back to this sense of independency. Technology allows you complete freedom. You don't have to have anyone else holding your hands. And that is the beauty of technology. It allows opportunity. You just have to, look yourself in the mirror and believe in yourself and understand that if you express your emotions, you made a movie.
まあ僕は映画を作りたかったんですけど
For
も、
me, I always wanted to direct
まあ
a
夢
movie,
は売れてゲー
but
ム
I
業界
couldn't, and I just went
なん
to
ですけ
the
ど、
gaming industry.
今自分が若かったらまあ映画すぐ作りますね
But。if I was young today, I
もう
would
全
just make
然
a movie.
40年前とは時代が違うので、
Totally different than 40 years ago.
まずカメラがなかったんで、
Well, at that time, I didn't even have a
フィルム
camera.
も高いんでね。
And films were
で、今
so
なんかもうデ
expensive.
ジタルで、スマホで映画撮れるんで、
Nowadays, you could use your
編集機
smartphone.
もデジタルでありますし、
And you could have all
音も
these
作れます
editing
し、
on digital. You could make your own sounds and music.
で、上映もインターネットでできると。
And you could even present this on internet.
なんで今作らないと損ですよね。
So you have to make now. Now is the time.
で、映画だけじゃなくて、ゲームも作れるので、エンジンも全部ネット
Not
上にあ
just
るので。
movies. You have engines if you wanted to
なん
create a
で、あん
game.
まり構えず、
So
ご飯を食べて寝るような、シャワーを浴びるような感覚で物を作った方がいいと思います。
you should create something like your everyday life. You wake up, you eat, you sleep. The same thing. You make, you announce.
作るテクノロジーもツールもあって発表する場もあるので、
Because you have all the
こんな
technology you need.
素晴らしい時代も僕らの時なかった。
And it's a great era that you could
ぜひこれを利
put
用し
this
てで
out
す
on the
ね、
internet.
あまり深く考える必要ないです。
Use it. Don't think
もう
too
どんどん
hard.
作っ
Don't
て見せて、
think too much. Make a lot.
おそらく有名な映画会社がオファーしてくると思うので、
And probably
そこ
like
からです
movie
プロになる
companies
かどうかを決めるのは。
will give you, like, reach out to you. Then you decide whether you want to do that as a professional or not.
頑張ってください。
Best of luck to you.
I would say the very last one. But we need to use mics.
I'm sorry, I'm literally shaking right now. For Hideo, it's not a question, it's just I want to thank you for painted a piece of my soul with the ending of your creation, Metal Gear Solid 2. And I just want to say thank you because I think I will never be the person that I am without that moment before. So I'm really grateful with you.
You're very welcome. It was the other cell that decided.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Nicolas. Thank you, Hideo. Thank you, Matteo.